Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Benji Ndolo. We're going to keep it real talk as usual. Was just thinking about a few things, how we do things as a country, how we do the business of governance, why there's so much hopelessness, why there's so much despair. How come a lot of people don't like to watch the news? It's because the news is almost a nightmare. And I picked a perfect example to talk about from last week. A perfect example from the news. A story that is not very dramatic. A story that is not very salacious. It doesn't have any gossip. It doesn't have any juicy stuff. But a good example of why we are where we are as an underdeveloped country. So there's a war between the controller of budget, okay, in 2023. She's newly in office, hasn't been there for long. And there's a war between her and governors. So the governors are represented by the Council of Governors, which is a body established under the Constitution that does elections of the governors in office to champion, their interests, their different counties' interests, etc. Now, the Constitution of Kenya, as I've said many times since my days at the National Civil Society Congress, it's such a good constitution with excellent ideals. Again, I know a lot of Kenyans haven't read it, so many a time the voters themselves are to blame. It's got Article 10 on values, how to define the republic, what to do, the place of tribe in society, meritocracy in public service, and what have you. So Article 10. Article 35, freedom of information. Article 1.1, that the power is vested in the people and is only exercised by elected representatives on behalf of the people. I mean, basic tenets of constitutionalism and democracy. And so the Council of Governors here is in a bitter war with the controller of budget. Why? For the simple reason that, you see, we have a way that the evil spirit has always taken a stranglehold of how a lot of black people, Kenyans included, because of the history of colonialism, etc., we get independence and then we, for example, begin to do such toxic practices as abusing another black person, all right, doing what the colonialists were doing, stealing public resources, hiring skewed based on tribe, hiring based on special interests. Like, for example, you want to employ someone because they're your girlfriend. You saw the debacle at Finlay's, etc. So all these things about how we do things define Kenyanness in a sense. They shouldn't, but they do. So the Council of Governors is fighting back because the controller of budget realized that what do governors do? They requisition money for pending bills. So in requisitioning the money, they give a list. And they say, we have a list of pending bills of suppliers that we want to pay. XYZ company, Bar Hassan Enterprises, etc., etc., etc. When they get the money, guess what? In typical Kenyan fashion, they don't pay the people they requisitioned the money to pay. That's how we do things. They take the money and pay other people. All right? So you have fiscal chaos in the counties because pending bills are as old as 7, 8, 9 years. Okay, first of all, it's an injustice. A small business comes to you, they construct a road or whatever it is, you enter into a contract prior to that, the governor refuses to pay. The governor runs the county like a Coca-Cola kiosk, like his own kiosk. Of course, they requisition money, and then maybe the governor pays his wife's company. I mean, this is such typical African behavior. And so, my question, first of all, is, we keep talking about the economy and building the economy. How do you build an economy when you are not even paying the small players, the cogs in the economy that build up towards the bigger thing? So here we are, expecting the economy to grow, expecting SMEs to build the economy by getting rid of the problem of unemployment, but then we don't even pay the same SMEs. Some of these SMEs are doing business by borrowing money from banks. So within no time, if they are on pending bills, they're not getting sorted out, they're getting auctioned, they're closing down. It's a vortex of madness. And as a Kenyan supplier, this is your own. Look at how Nakumatt went down, including actually Uchumi. I remember the Uchumi MD, one of the audits showed that he was getting bailout from government, public money, and then paying his wife, who is a supplier. I mean, that level of madness and conflict of interest is how we do things, and how do we expect, therefore, to go forward when we have refused to adopt best practices, when we have refused to be decent, when we have refused to be a civilized people. Two glaring examples in counties that I just was able to build up upon this whole control of budget debacle. So the county of Kirinyaga, led by a known, a known element, a lady known element, the former queen pin of NYS. Kirinyaga County has a revenue target of 500 million Kenya shillings. Not much for a county. Guess its actual collection, 58.7 million. Yani Kirinyaga County is telling us that they're collecting 10% of the target. They are also, of course, getting allocation from national government. National government, which treasury has pretty much no money because of the loans that they've taken, such loans as Eurobond that Uhuru Kenyatta took, that there were a lot of suspicions, allegations, a lot of war with the Auditor General's office because they were saying that the money never got into the country. Basically, the money was gawanyad out there. So a county like this is collecting 58 million shillings instead of 500 million. Of course, they're not paying doctors. Standards for education continue to be low. Kids, you can't even fund such programs as just a breakfast option for kids in the rural Kirinyaga to make sure that they're not coming to class hungry. I mean, such basic things. But what people do is just loot this money from counties and put up flats in Nairobi, in Kileleshwa, all over the place, on Mombasa Road, etc. How do you behave that way? The second egregious example we've seen is Uasin Gishu County, none other than the president's own county. Uasin Gishu County, led by a cartoon called Mandago, approached poor farmers, most tea farmers, okay, and entered into a program to take their kids for an educational, tour or, bursary education in Finland. After they entered into this agreement, the parents paid, some sold animals, sold their farms, some sold houses, and the collective amount that was collected was realized was 35 million shillings. Funny enough, the kids went to Finland, but now they're risking being removed from school, deported, because the 35 million was mysteriously withdrawn. The case is with EACC. This same governor, of course, went back to the people and convinced them to make him a senator. Just imagine this kind of abuse. Just imagine this kind of hatred against your own people. You connive, bring up a program, and mind you, the way power distance and the philosophy of power works in Kenya, you can be sure that programs, special projects like these, are really at the behest of His Excellency the Governor only. He's the final say. Nothing can happen without the governor's cooperation, without the governor's agreement, without his signature, etc. So this is robbing and looting, folks, apart from just the usual mismanagement. I mean, these guys even have no shame about the fact that they are embarrassing the president of Kenya, because that's his county. That's where he used to be an MP for Eldoret North. And it now left to the media and to people like us to talk about it, to bring the issue to the fore, and to call for justice, to call for reimbursements for these poor farmers. This is the way. I mean, we have so much corruption now in devolution. In essence, we've devolved corruption. I talked about two examples, but I'll give a last one. For the county that should be the leading example of devolution and governance in Kenya, the biggest county, the biggest budget, the epicenter of everything, and that is Nairobi County. So Governor Sakaja has a big problem now because they're doing an audit that has realized that all liquor license fees are banked in different, diverse accounts all over the place. They're not in a central account. So liquor license fees are banked anywhere and everywhere. God knows what happens when that money is banked. There are those who bank it anywhere. There's no accountability. There's no order. There's no nothing. They then withdraw the same, conceivably. All right? Not to mention the traders who are extorted by police on a daily basis. What kind of a country is that? We can only fix these issues if we bring them to the fore, if we discuss solutions, if we call against this kind of, wanton corruption and mismanagement and looting, this kind of abuse against the people, and if we hold the government to account. Tomorrow when you come back, we'll discuss the economy in finer detail, and I'll tell you what the president needs to do to realize his agenda, his goals, because the Hustler Fund, yes, was realized. The amounts are too small. There's progress, there's growth. It needs to grow much faster. There's some development on the part of reducing gas cylinder prices and what have you. But all of those come to naught if you have continued increase in energy prices, because energy drives everything. So I'll give them specifics on what the president has to do as a man to realize lower energy prices, which then have a trickle-down effect on consumer goods prices, price of food, price of transport, cost of electricity, etc., etc., etc. This is the only way to deliver the hustler agenda. Otherwise, it becomes a talking shop and Kenyans are really hungry and frustrated. When we come back, we'll talk about that, and then we'll also talk about other issues in society. We have so many problems now. We have problems with the youth, with suicide, with drug abuse, with alcohol abuse, the works. Because we're also running a jobless economy, an economy where for the most part, 9 out of 10 times, you get hired in a public service role or in any role if you have a godfather, if you come from a certain tribe, etc. All this in the 21st century, unacceptable. It's a real talk. We'll talk some more tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe to my channel and let's have that conversation. We also welcome feedback. So bring questions, tweet and send those. My Twitter is @Benji Ndolo. I really like to address questions. And I have experts also who advise me, so that if you need very technical expertise on some of the answers, we'll be able to get you that. But we must not give up on this country. It's a real talk.